up, guys? This is Danny Who from Beers in the Lot, and welcome to episode 7. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcatcher, and make sure to follow on the socials at Beers in the Lot. Tonight we talk about Tampa winning the Cup. We talk about the Cup being awarded like a beer league championship, and the bubble worked? Question mark? Without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, guys, we got a political debate on tonight, so we need to get into these beers because just no. All right, here we go.
Oh, fuck.
Careful.
In the mouth, not on your lap.
Did your keyboard hands get cut by the beer?
No, I got a little shrapnel.
What beer cut you open tonight there?
A Flying Dog Thunder Peel.
Oh, back to the Flying Dog. All right.
Going back to the well.
What's going on your side? What are you doing there?
My boy went down to the beach and brought me back a Wicked Weed Brewing Freak of Nature.
Okay.
Yep,
Not
good
bad.
stuff. What about you, Rigo? Got the glass again, I see.
Yeah, I have to drink beer out of glasses because I only drink the finest of beers. I have for the official meme lord of the Beers on the Lot podcast, I have Dank Memes version 4 from
yes.
Calvert Brewing Company.
Nice.
And it actually has a meme on the label, and it's the one with the kid sitting on the dad's lap and the kid saying, "How did you survive 2020, Dad?" And the dad says, "Looked at beers and drank memes." Ha 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 ha. And then the little baby brother on the floor says, "Freaking legend."
Nice.
Dank memes.
Dang me.
That's how we
Air,
get
do
through
we,
2020.
Air, do we even have to ask you what you're drinking at this point? Or
Actually, tonight I'm drinking a Busch.
Oh,
Is that a Busch Latte?
head for the mountains.
It's just Busch.
Keeping
I don't
it
know.
classy.
I don't know what to do. Aaron changed. I can't handle this. Can't hear.
Would you believe that I actually went out about an hour ago to get beer from my corner store because I didn't want to drink another Radler on the
You were
on the
like,
podcast?
"Oh shit, we're recording tonight. I got to get different beer now."
Yeah, my wife offered up one of her claws, but I said no. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna
Smart
go get
man.
some beer.
Well,
Smart man.
So what do we got to talk about tonight? I don't think anything's happened in the last week or so, right? Something happened last night.
nothing important.
Nothing
No.
important to Pens and Caps fans,
I mean,
or Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
You could. Well, Luke Shen and Curtis McElhaney did win the Cup with Tampa, so two guys they jettisoned off, unfortunately. But Tampa took home the Stanley Cup. Really dominated the game against Dallas, and kind of weird. Dallas couldn't score a goal or get a shot to the net in the third period. You know, it's so odd.
They had the goalie pulled and they couldn't get a shot on goal.
You know what though?
It's crazy.
In their defense, and I'll say it. I mean, I kind of harped on them a little bit all playoffs early with them not scoring. They play such a really strong team game. I mean, they really try to defend really well. The effort was there from that team the whole series, the whole playoffs, and Khudobin played out of his mind. So good on him. I felt a little upset, kind of watching their post-game pressers, and they just look so beat. I mean,
you saw one with Jamie Benn.
Yeah,
he couldn't even talk.
I semi-hate those post-game interviews, especially
it's like just let the man go do his thing.
I mean, Cam Newton a few years ago walked out on the Super Bowl one. Like, yeah, do you blame him? Like the guy, those guys bust their butts, and especially given the circumstances, with the bubble and everything. I know Damian Cox didn't think it was so, tough doing it, even though I would tend to disagree with that troll.
that guy's an idiot.
Yeah,
He's been an idiot for years.
Yeah, he's a total clown. I have no time or opinion other than he's an idiot.
Well, Bettman even said when
him.
he was handing out the cup, he said this is probably the hardest cup that's ever been handed out. And I completely agree with him.
For just the mental aspect and the psychological aspect of being locked away in those bubbles for 2 months. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've talked about it a bunch, but even like, I think before the game, like they asked Rick Bowness, are you going to miss anything from the bubble or something like that? And he was like, absolutely not. There's nothing here to miss. Like we're here for one thing and one thing only, and that's to win Stanley Cup. And then they don't do it. And then obviously, you saw like Jamie Benn basically was like catatonic
Cut down,
in the
Yeah.
post game
Mhm.
press conference deal, and yeah,
Heartbreaking.
you could just see like right his heart had just been ripped out from his body essentially, and he was just a shell,
And like you were saying, it's like why even do those post game pressers for the loser? You know what they're gonna say. I mean,
Yeah.
it sucks. We didn't win. We tried hard. This is a great group of guys. We're gonna go for it next
Right.
year. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want him to say? Do you want him to cry? I mean, Ben basically did that.
Well,
So-
some people I'm sure kind of do want to see that a little bit. But Danny, you said what?
If it was Corey Perry, then yes, I do want to see.
Yeah.
that.
Oh, absolutely. I wish he was bawling. I wish he was just like climbing up on the table and like putting his head in his hands and crying and like, oh my God.
Well, Danny, you said
Corey
what
Perry.
were Sagan's injuries again? What were his injuries?
Groin, hip, and knee.
Yeah, that
Jesus.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because
What was-
I was saying he only had 3 goals since January.
Mhm.
3.
Yeah.
And a guy like Tyler Seguin, he needs to get going. I mean, I was kind of saying it too. Like they really need to get him going. I don't know what's going on. And you got to think like he had all that, and he still looked pretty decent. He actually got a little jump the last couple of games of the series too.
He was getting chances, and he was setting other guys up too. I think what was the line on him? He had like 5 points in the last 2 games going into that game last
Yeah.
night. So
He definitely started.
He was around the puck. He was around the net. He generate a little bit, just too little, too late, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
But-
got to be the worst one to lose, getting all the way there, being in a bubble for so long and then
Right.
losing.
Right.
Mhm.
That's got to be awful.
Yeah.
Well, especially like we were saying, the hotel hands you a bill for like $5,000 for all the booze and room service you did.
All the
You gotta
room
pay it.
service,
Yeah.
the last 60
Ugh.
days of room service,
Yeah.
and the
It
bar
just-
bill. Oh yeah,
yeah.
just charge it to my room.
Yeah.
then they all go to check out.
Do you think some of those guys were like, "Oh, put this on Mr. Ben's tab, please"?
Yeah.
He said it
Right,
was
yeah.
totally fine. Seabass,
where's-
Seabass, yeah,
where's-
Seabass said he'd get it over there.
What's
That guy.
Jamie's room number again? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Ugh.
Yeah, last name Bettman. First name
Yeah,
Perry?
yeah.
Put it on,
Great
put it on that. one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we touched on it a little bit, last week, and him and Bill Daly, what they did with it, you could say all you want, like Bettman's kind of a troll. Bill Daly kind of does nothing. He just stands there. The fact they were able to orchestrate all this and we still got a Stanley Cup awarded. I mean, kudos to those guys and the owners and the Players Association and everybody else, the volunteers that had to do it in the arena staff. The fact we actually got playoff hockey in the Stanley Cup this year, considering all, I feel very fortunate. I mean,
Yep.
Granted, we have to wait a couple of months now till the next one, but good on the NHL really locking it because there were 0 COVID tests positive.
Yeah. Zero
so,
positives.
good on
Over
them.
33,000 or something like that over the course of
Right.
the whole playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. 0 positive.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
perfect.
amazing. And
Yep.
you would think that it serves as a model for all the other pro sports.
Yeah.
And then like today, even though like we're not a football show, but was it the Titans came out today
Titans?
and they had a bunch of
Yeah,
guys.
Titans had like
Titans have a
4 or
bunch of
5
guys positive, and
Yeah, it
then
was like-
and so now them
Yeah.
and like the Minnesota Vikings are in
Yep.
quarantine or something. Like
They
Oh,
might not
God.
get to play on Sunday. Yeah.
so, the
And I-
NFL is screwed. Like
And I
Right.
and I read something like Minnesota was like in their team. Like I don't think the players had to come in today. They were doing something, I guess rest or whatever, and the coaches and a lot of the personnel and the player or the coaches and personnel, they actually like had to evacuate the team facilities. Like they were like, "You need to get out immediately." I mean, just because
Lysoling everything.
Well, yeah, and they're so alarmed. And, the NFL teams are still traveling. Yes, there's no fans in some spots, but these guys are still traveling, and they're not in a bubble once they're out of the team facility, if you will. Like, they do have certain measures, like, spaced out lockers, team meeting rooms, all that stuff. But after, they're on their own time, and you don't know where they're going to get it or what they're doing afterwards. They're allowed to do as they please, obviously, but still, it's kind of scary.
Especially for a multi-billion-dollar business to take that kind of risk.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, oh my God.
Well,
They're worth way more than the NHL, and they're not
Yes.
putting any of those same type of measures in place. And it may, I don't really know, because I have no clue about how to run a pro football team. I have no clue how to run a pro hockey team, but I do know that pro hockey was able to make it work, and pro football is starting to have issues. And so maybe the bubble would work for them too. I don't know. But
And MLB has had issues somewhat throughout their season.
yeah, that seemed to
NBA
calm.
spurts.
It seemed to calm
Spurs.
down though, and now
Yeah.
that they're in playoffs, they've gone into like playoff bubbles for their
Yeah.
stuff. So, and I don't know how to run a pro baseball team either.
What
But-
pro team do you know how to run, Rigsby?
Jeez.
Aussie rules
Yeah.
football?
Actually,
Yeah.
I probably could run a
Yeah.
Aussie rules.
So just speaking as an Aussie rules football armchair GM, what would you do?
Well,
But
we won't go there, but they so I do follow that, right? Because I do have some connections over there, and they actually had like a modified bubble where they had hub cities to play their weekly matches, and guess what? It worked. So
Weird.
if you're in a multi-billion-dollar business like a pro sports league, and you're not considering taking those measures to keep your business going, you're dumb.
Yep,
That's it.
I agree.
And the thing too that's kind of interesting, like the PGA Tour, because I follow that, they kind of had, the first couple of weeks they were in, like they wanted everybody, if you were in these events, you were traveling with the PGA kind of entourage, if you will. Like they would set up flights, they would set up hotels because they wanted it contained. And they are still testing everybody that goes in to the sites every week on the courses. So that's your trainers, and they're only allowed in certain times, your caddies, your players, volunteers, etc. They're making sure they're very buttoned up. And I think it was it Nick Watney maybe? He said he thought he may have had something because he wears that fitness strap. I'm not going to say the name because they don't pay us or anything. But he said he noticed something in his sleep where his heart rate was elevated, a few beats per minute, and he noticed it like on 2 days before he tested positive. But kind of interesting with some of the fitness tracking of the guys, they're so dialed in.
So the bubble works for the NHL, right? And they can get through a full playoffs, actually an expanded playoffs format. They can
Hell yeah.
They can award the Stanley Cup. I did see a couple Dallas Stars people that I know whining that, oh, this isn't my Stanley Cup playoffs, because no, look, guys, they played the 7-game series all the way through. It's a legit playoffs. Yeah, the living situation was different or whatever.
Everybody was in the same boat.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the competition was legit. Tampa wins. That's awesome. Stammer gets his cup.
Cooper gets his cup.
Coop gets his cup. Hedman.
If anything, it was the most even ever because there was no home or away ice.
Right. There's no home ice
Everything was at a
advantage.
neutral location. Yeah.
The one thing that I really enjoyed that I didn't know I was going to enjoy until they brought the cup out to give it to Tampa last night was they brought it out in an empty building, just like when we win men's league.
Yes. It's the men's league Stanley Cup. You're right.
And if you
No
if you notice,
fans,
too, they
no
skated, what,
friends
like
and
8
family.
feet? Yeah, they skated like 8 feet with the cup, and
Exactly.
then they
back,
just went back.
So they're just like
So-
one of us, is what you're saying.
One of us. Yes.
Yeah.
One
They're
of us. One of us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The NHL definitely missed the mark with not piping in the booing.
Oh yeah, when Beckman was delivering the speech, they had to pipe in the booze.
But other than that,
yeah. Other than that,
Yeah,
I
so
think
you know
they
what?
nailed it.
You chalk that up in the loss column, right?
But everything else is a big W. I like it.
Definitely.
Yeah, they got everything else right.
the guy on Twitter fixed it, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
that's right.
Well, there were two things that really stuck out to me now that you mention it. So I've never seen a coach so like jovial and like he was jumping on his players and stuff, like nothing that I've ever seen that I can even remember, which I kind of like, because that shows you how much John Cooper cares / likes his players. And I think he's the first coach. He won it NAHL, USHL, AHL, NHL. He's the only one to win the championship in all 4. Very impressive. And the other thing too, his like maniacal villain laugh that he had when he said like, "Oh, we're going home 30 pounds heavier." Ha ha. I'm sure if there's like an NHL coaches meeting, a lot of guys aren't going to buy him a free drink. They're not going. I don't think he did himself any favors with the other coaches, but I don't think he really cares. So good for him.
I saw something on him that he at 32 he like switched careers and like became a coach.
Yeah, he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he was an attorney before.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's why he's so well spoken.
Yeah, can you imagine going into like contract negotiations with that guy, even though he's a coach? He's like, well, you can't really do that because this is what. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine.
But you could tell like there's a very special relationship between him and like all the staff, all the players, anybody that was around the team. It was cool to see, and I think he's a great coach in the league.
Well, and there was a big grind. I mean, we kind of said it, on the group thread last night when they won. Like, this has really been 5+ years in the making with that Tampa team. I mean, they have been to the conference finals. Now it's 2 cups, 1 championship with it. I mean, they really have grinded it out to get that cup. And John Cooper was really unfortunate. This past season, they let go of his assistants. Rick Bowness was one who you could tell even going through the line. Normally, the opposing coach, even if he knows a few players, it's usually handshakes. Congratulations. He was smiling. He was hugging. All those guys, especially like Victor Hedman and Kucherov, you could tell they had a real bond still with Rick. I mean, probably a little bittersweet because he probably wishes he was on the other side. Sucks for him. And also John Cooper, when he did his post-game interview, he brought the entire coaching staff up, even the video coach. I mean, I don't think anyone knows who the video coach is, let alone sees him. He's normally sitting behind a few monitors, judging for offside goals. But that's pretty cool to see. Daniel, I want you to bring something up about the Hornquist trade. Go like.
I wanted to say something about Jamie Benn though.
Oh, go ahead.
So Jamie Benn throughout the playoffs, he was showing up on the score sheet almost every game, right? The finals, he only had 1 assist throughout all the 6 games.
No, I thought he scored in game 1 or 2, didn't he?
No, he had 1 assist. I think that was game 3. He had an assist.
Huh.
Didn't show up on the score sheet like he did in the other series.
That sucks.
Yeah.
That could be something there too.
Yeah.
So, you're saying about Tampa, it's probably 7 years, right?
Yeah.
For them to really get to that point. And they've had ups and downs, right? They went to a cup final before and they lost, and Columbus sweeping them last year in the first round as they were going in as President's Trophy winners or whatever. I think that builds up like that scar tissue that you need to go in and go for a long run and then get your cup. I think you have to lose some of those battles, and maybe for Dallas this is part of that, for that group in Dallas, for Sagan and Ben and Radulov. maybe it's part of their process to get their cup that, they had to go through this hardship and this failure.
Well, and they have that young Finnish contingency too there with Hans and Klinberg, Swedish, so I would say Scandinavian contingent. But, they have some really young guns on that team that could really help them out in the next couple of years, especially as Jamie Benn and Sagan get a little older. I don't know how much longer Pavelski and Perry are going to be around, but I'm sure having guys like that, even though we don't like Corey Perry, guy did have a good cup final. Say whatever you want. He did. He's kind of a dirt ball, but whatever. He did have a good cup final, so maybe some of those guys kind of learn from that and kind of take into account, this is what we need to do to win, even when we don't show up on the score sheet. We got to do the little things right. Jamie Benn was back checking a bunch last night. You saw it 2 or 3 times. So, like you said, Danny, he wasn't scoring, but he's doing the little things. So
true. It's about the journey too. Like if you start a rebuild and then win the cup the first year, then it doesn't mean as much as, I don't know, getting really close a few times. We're Penguins and Caps guys, so how close have the Caps gotten and had hopes dashed, and Penguins had lost in 08 to the Red Wings, and then had to come back the next year and face the same demons. Like it's definitely the journey is a huge part of making the cup run special for sure.
Right. I think that's part of the process, and even like Stamkos mentioned it last night. He said, the cliche question is, how do you feel about winning the Stanley Cup? Right. It's so dumb.
Good.
But his answer was,
I feel okay.
His answer was like,
no, it's not really what I thought it would be. Sorry, go ahead.
His answer was really thoughtful. I'm thinking about not just like this team, but all of the people that I've played with or have been through here as coaches, or like, he didn't say it in so many words, but his answer was to that point, that it's not just that 6-game series or even that playoffs or even just that last season. It's, years and years of buildup to get to that point. And then hopefully when you're there, you can take advantage. So I thought that was cool. And I think, it just proves the point that it is a process. And like you were saying, Aaron, like, Washington, Pittsburgh, like they all go through it. Chicago had to go through it.
You look at even St. Louis last year, they were like dead last middle of the season. And before the season, they were like, high cup favorites, or at least going to the conference final. And then even leading up to that, 2 or 3 years prior, they were always going to the playoffs. They were always a dangerous team. So then bang, and look what happens. Like then finally everything came together for one magical run. That's what it is. And you look at some teams too in that little block, like they only get one cup run, one magical run. I think of a team kind of like Vancouver with the Sedins, and they have Bobby Lou and Kessler and those guys there for that long time. They're always competitive. They were always finishing well in the regular season. They only got to one cup, and they lost to Boston. Granted, Game 7 at home, and then the Anarchists took over the city of Vancouver that night. But like that team, kind of same thing. They had all this buildup after years of getting closer. They couldn't beat Chicago and stuff like that, and then finally they get through, and they still come up short. It sucks. It sucks.
Well, it's kind of like the it's like you got to have some adversity in order to get there, even because how long is the President's Trophy Cup or curse been going on? Like 27 seasons or something like that, where the first overall after the regular season gets bounced in like the first or second round, like just can't make it.
Yeah. But I think it's also just part of the growth process, Yeah. I think naturally humans just you have to suffer a little bit of failure in order to grow. And that's how it works. That's how you learn. You learn more from those failures than you do from constant success. Right.
Of course.
So you go through those battles and you fall down and you get up and you keep going. And that's really, as dumb as it sounds, like that's how hockey works. That
Yeah.
the teams and the individuals that are successful, they're able to get up, you know.
What's the?
That's how it
I don't know
works.
if it's a USA Hockey mantra or whatever, but it's on like a banner that's in our rink. It's like try, fail, learn, grow, succeed, or something like that. I forget what it is.
Yeah,
But
it's a USA hockey banner, man.
that's
That's
what
like
I thought.
yeah, that's the whole deal. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's actually there's science behind that. I mean, I've read books about, you know, like brain development and how mostly for coaching, like, you know, how does the brain actually work? How do you actually learn skills, whether it's physical or mental? And the way it works is you try something, and if it works, you learn from that. But if it doesn't work, you'll actually learn and absorb that knowledge in a better way, and it actually like grows physical connections in the brain. That's the science. So at an individual level, if you go through some failure, you're going to grow and you're going to learn. And then as a team or an organization, if we're all doing that, then we're all growing and learning together, right? And we'll be successful. And I think that's the lesson, right? Like
Yeah.
Tampa for years, they had some success, and everybody would put them up on that pedestal, and then they wouldn't do what they were supposed to do, right? Washington did the same thing. Pittsburgh did the same thing until '09, right? Like that's how it
Yep.
works. What happens is, right, everybody's like, oh, well, these guys, you know, oh, Tampa went in as #1 seed last year, and they're playing against Columbus, who, you know, slid ass backwards into the playoffs. And then what happens, right? They sweep Tampa, and you know, Tampa's the cup favorite or whatever. Like, so you go through those things, and I think it makes you a better team. And then the next year, guess what happens? They dominate.
I saw on Reddit somebody was posting on the Tampa Bay won the cup thread or whatever and said, please let this distract you from the fact that the Lightning were swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets last year, because that was the phrase.
But you know
Anything
what?
that happens, don't let it distract you from the
You know
fact that the Columbus
kind
Blue
of-
Jackets swept the Lightning.
You know what's funny? If you look back at a lot of those teams that were like, I feel I should go back and start looking at this because I'm one of those dorks that does it. Like I know for a fact Tampa, at least the ones I can count on, they lost to Pittsburgh twice and Washington once the year those two teams won the cup. Okay. So that's 3 times Tampa has lost to the cup winner who came out of the East out of the 3 years. And then they got swept last year. So that's 4. I'm sure if I went back, you could find other things, you know, where they lost to either a really good team getting hot at the right time or, you know, injuries perhaps or something like that. But like you kind of look, I mean, it's not like Tampa lost to bad teams. I mean, that John Tortorella Columbus team, that was a really good team. You know, I don't think a lot of people gave. Sometimes I think when the favorite loses, it's easier to lump on the favorite than it is to go, the team that upset them is just as good. You know, maybe he doesn't score goals, but does enough to prevent them. So it's funny how it works. You always you more remember, man, Tampa got swept. You don't go, man, Columbus played a hell of a series. They literally shut Tampa out the entire time. You know, they got outshot and all the other stuff.
You remember last year when Tampa lost, they on Twitter they posted their response that turned into like a copy paste on the internet, and it was like, "We don't have any words, and you know this isn't the ending we imagined." Or what? There's a new one now, and it is, "We have many words, and we know you want to hear them. We understand your excitement, your relief, your exuberance, everything you're feeling. We get it. This is the ending we imagined, and certainly the one we wanted. Thank you for being there the entire way."
Yeah,
I love that. That's good.
That'll end up on a shirt somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times those underdog teams just play the quote unquote better teams harder. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen Pittsburgh go into games and I'm like, oh, Pittsburgh, you know, this team is doing terrible. Pittsburgh's going to roll over them. And then they get like shut out like 7-0. Like
It's true.
It's like the worst teams they get up
They
for
play
those
like
games.
they have nothing to lose because they don't.
Right.
Well, and it's that adage too, like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. You could definitely say that was the case, especially when you look at Kucherov. He's kind of the poster child for this his last year during that Columbus series. He did get pushed around. He wasn't effective. This year, I mean, that guy was kind of an animal. I mean, he was sticking guys left and right. In the one game, I forget which game number it was against Dallas. He got knocked down like 3 or 4 times, and then he went head first in the boards because he's back checking so hard like a maniac.
That was like one shift, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was one shift. All that happened, and then later in the same sequence, in the game, he gets a goal or two, or an assist or something. So by him working harder, his skill just took over. Stamkos, even though he was out there for a little bit in the one game, he kind of did the same thing. It was great.
You mean when he went and like bar down?
Yeah, when you shoot far side
on one shot. Yeah, that was sick.
It was awesome, and I'm glad Stammer got a cup. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to Tampa Bay Lightning. It sucks it wasn't Pittsburgh. I'm not going to say that about Washington. But yeah, I mean, it's
No one cares, John.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
No one cares.
No one cares. You're right. We're already moving to this January 18th when the next season starts, or however they're planning to do it. So yeah,
that early.
Well, kind of what I was reading today. It was something in regards to they want to finish before the Summer Olympics, if they even have a Summer Olympics. I'm doing air quotes on that. And I was putting some on the group thread where they want to play like 10 to 15 games a month, which is normal, and then do kind of mini bubbles. So you would go in bubble for 2 weeks, you X out of the bubble, you're off for a week. And you kind of keep that rotating schedule in and out of a bubble, going. I don't know how the players are going to like it, and I don't even know if there's going to be fans. But also, I think it's going to be partly depending on the states too, because like Dallas, I think they had fans at their stadium for the Cowboys game and stuff. Florida had fans in some others. I think the SEC with football, they're allowing fans in the stadiums and stuff. It's like. So, and then Maryland, where we are, it's no fans for any sporting events. So I guess a lot of that will depend on where the bubble is. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh,
somebody's going back to the cooler.
I didn't know it was cooler time.
Cooler time.
Sorry.
What's going on over there now?
Oh, same thing. Another dank meme.
Okay. We got a situation. We
got
a
a glass.
situation over here.
Dank meme for the meme lord.
That's right.
John Walker does all our memes.
So John, do you think when they kicked Dallas out of the hotel, do you think it looked like Hornquist's driveway?
Yeah. So so here's the funny thing, and those who don't know, I kind of went I got gaslighted, I guess you could say. I saw a picture, I guess Hornquist's neighbor put a picture of like all his Pens gear out in the driveway, and it did look like it wasn't near his garage. It was definitely like literally by the freaking mailbox. Of like his pants, his bag looked like there were jersey and stuff in it. Rigsby, I think, was going to drive up and try and take the pants because he wants a girdle.
Yeah, man, I want to try out a girdle. I don't want to pay for it. I'll just take it out of his driveway. It's pro stock.
Yeah, if I was his neighbor, I'd have been like,
I got shells here.
Yeah. So
if I was his neighbor, I would have knocked on his door and been like, "Hey, you mind if I go ahead and take that there?"
You done with that?
Yeah. So even though, I thought two things initially. I was like, man, he must be pissed just to chuck it out there. And then I read like he's been skating in Cranberry, so he could have just been airing his shit out. So I'm not.
He probably
really,
does that every weekend.
He probably does.
Yeah,
and someone just.
Right.
I do that every weekend. That's how I air my shit out.
Now the one thing with Hornquist is it sucks because he got traded. But he did say, the decision was pretty easy once they worked out the insurance thing on his contract, where he said one team wants me, one team doesn't. Made my decision very easy. Yeah. After Jim Rutherford kicked Justin Schultz in the pants when he left, where he said, we're not really going to re-sign him. We weren't very pleased with the last couple of years. That's not a good move on Jim Rutherford.
No, it's
Trading
terrible.
Hornquist when he's very well liked, and it's kind of on the back end of like there was a lot of internal blowback after the Carl Hagelin trade where a lot of guys liked him. He was a glue guy, and I'm sure there were other pieces the Pens could have moved. But sometimes you have to move a player because that's what a player is looking for, or another team is looking for. It sucks. And now the Pens are in this weird spot where they have a log jam on the left side of the D. So there's rumors, who's going to go. For the first time in the last couple of years being a Pens fan, I really am unsure of this team's going to look like outside of the fact Crosby, Gensel, and Brian Rust will be back. Outside of that, I think everybody else is fair game. And John Marino. I think everybody else, I wouldn't be shocked if Jim Rutherford's fielded calls or even, called other GMs and goes, how do you feel about so-and-so player?
Please
and as
be
we
Jack
approach
Johnson.
now next week, well, that's going to be – well, see, so here's the other thing that's interesting about that. So the Jack Johnson thing –
I think he's part of the
Yeah,
log
yeah.
jam.
He's part of the log jam.
He's the biggest
part of the
log
log
in the
jam on the
jam.
left side, so you got to move him. But if you
Careful.
I get it.
Careful.
yeah,
No,
we're not that kind of podcast.
All right, guys. So let's pivot here a little bit. Let's talk about Johnstown. How about Daniel? How about you tell us something that you remember from Johnstown from the last few trips?
It was nice. It was nice hearing your name in the war.
I heard my name 3 times, and I didn't touch the puck in that first game because they had something wrong on the score sheet.
That's
It
funny.
was cool. I was sitting on the bench once, and somebody scored. I'm sitting on the bench, and they're like, assist to Eric Rigsby. And I was like,
It really
Duke
is
what-
so
Duke
cool.
what
It's
now?
an awesome feeling. Having played men's league my whole life, I've never played like anywhere like important or legitimate. When you score a goal and then they say goal scored by, and then they say your name over the loudspeaker at an arena. It's so awesome. It's one of a million reasons why I love going up there.
Also, I've noticed the sounds up there. Like in that big old building. It's a big old building, right? Well, not that big, but it's like,
The
Yeah.
acoustics are spectacular.
right? It's like the puck hits the boards and it makes a certain sound. When you're passing the puck around and it hits a stick, it makes
Snaps,
a certain
yeah.
sound, right? It's a way different sound than when you're at like the local rinks and you're in those aluminum boxes and stuff, It's completely different, and then it even feels different. Like when you're skating around, you're not faster, but you feel faster because you're in this bigger building, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I love going.
Well,
up
the
there.
puck hits the boards different even. Like it's one of the only rinks where you bounce the puck off the
Well-
boards and it actually bounces.
Yeah, that's because like they maintain their boards and their ice.
Well, sure, but it's also the boards are backed up against concrete, so like that's a big
Yeah, I
part
was
of
gonna
it.
say, don't bounce your body. Don't
Yeah.
bounce your body off the boards. Though.
Don't do that.
Yeah, Johnstown is also former Hockey
Right,
Town.
yeah.
That's right.
USA.
It was
Remember
Remember
that
it's
that.
Hockeyville. It was the first Hockeyville, USA. Yeah,
Hockey
so
Did
they
they
have.
Whose
That's
boards
right.
did they get?
Yeah,
Yeah,
aren't they
it
the
is-
Stars?
it's-
Aren't they the Stars boards?
Yeah, the Dallas Stars donated the boards to the War Memorial in Johnstown. The penalty boxes and the players' benches were donated by the Caps.
Oh, nice.
And then obviously like Kraft kicks in $150,000 for upgrades to the arena. I think they did the lighting. They did a bunch of stuff to the roof. It's an old building, but when you're in there playing, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And they have the little room with the wooden paneling with all
Yeah,
the
that's
slap
cool.
shot memorabilia. Oh, it's just
Can't wait to go again.
it's great. You're in
So what's the deal with that dog?
Well, that's the dog. That's the dog
That's the
that
dog
saved
saved
Charlestown from the flood. Yeah, well, fuck him.
And that's going to be our show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcatcher. And then follow us at Beers in the Lot on Twitter and Instagram. And we will see you guys next week.